was just like, it's funny that we're mostly all here, but we all still gonna go.
Hey, Nathan, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Great, great. Nathan, we have a Ball State alum sitting next to me.
Oh, yeah? Welcome. Chirp, chirp.
This is Michael. He's joining us tonight.
All right. Great.
I don't know when you graduated.
98.
So before, oh, sort of after computers. The early computer era, right?
Yeah.
Sort of late in the computer cycle. Remember, we were using R9 and R11 at Soroki's office in 97, 96. Good days, good times. You're in Indianapolis?
Fishers, which is a suburb of Indy. Yeah.
And you're north of it near Carmel?
Yeah, I'm just east of Carmel.
Is Ball State still using MicroStation?
I have no idea. I haven't been up there in 10 years. I graduated in 2007 and haven't been back since.
Gotcha.
So Nathan would be one of our unusual profiles, right? Coming back to school later in his career. And every semester I seem to have one or two of those. And lately, I've been getting a lot of kids, a lot of students from Ohio State that have done that. And they're all in Columbus, they're all working for firms, and they did their undergraduate there, and then they decided to go back to finish their graduate program, but at Lawrence Tech several years later.
Yep.
Is Ball State? Is it in Indianapolis? Where
No,
is
it's
it?
in Muncie.
It's in north. It's north. It's
Yeah.
near.
It's off 69, about 45 minutes north
Mhm.
of Indy. So Nathan, where do you work at an architecture firm in Indy?
Yeah, I work downtown Indianapolis for a firm called Synthesis. So we did specialize in medical operation room architecture, but now we've been kind of branching into some of the more residential or mixed use type. So this is a good time for me to be in this class.
Here, it's a good warm up for it.
Definitely.
Right. Okay.
How's Professor Faro's family? Mother, I think.
Saw him. He looks well. Been able to manage the situation to his satisfaction. So he'll be joining us in a few. Going to be driving home. So, and I think he's in a community about 20 minutes. So he'll probably join us around 6 o'clock.
Okay, great.
I'll tell him. Everyone, I don't see Jess yet.
Yeah, I texted him. He said he got the link. So.
No, he didn't get after his memo's chat, but he said he was able to get in eventually. So are you guys
What was that? It was a little choppy there.
who's presenting first tonight?
Yeah, we present first, yeah.
Okay, good. I'll give him a few more minutes.
All right, he said he's
Still not safe then.
yeah, he's his computer's restarting, so he's headed in right now.
Okay.
Come on, buddy.
Okay, well, I'll make a few opening remarks to be. It's the second of two review sessions, Benchmark-1. This is the first of 3 benchmarks, and tonight we're joined by our architect and our vice president at Michael for nearly a dozen years, and in the time prior to his Michael was an architect at the project that we're in today when Newman Smith had the joint venture with Rothwey Siegel Associates out of New York, who was the design lead for this building. The late 1970s and 1980s, probably one of the so-called New York Five. Michael's joined, and you'll see other architects joining us in these reviews for Benchmark 2. Already extended an invitation to join us in April at Benchmark 3, which will occur on the 2 evenings, the 2 class nights of the Crit Week that we have here. And so for benchmarks, we will organize them from 5:30 till 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Try to get close microphone. So we won't be running the juries from night. We'll bring 2 different sessions, and we'll a better time of it all. So it looks like Jess has arrived. Just let me check my.
Yes, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
And I see Jess here. Are you here, Jess? Excellent.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. And it looks like we're all here. So it looks like we're all here. Dan Farrow will be joining us in a few minutes. For those that have just arrived, we have Michael DeCoster, one of the vice presidents from Hamilton Anderson joining us as our guest critic tonight. Michael will be looking at 3 projects that propose 5-story mixed-use buildings on the so-called A3 site at Alfred and John R. in Detroit in historic Brush Park. These are team-based projects, and tonight you'll be looking at the work of 3 teams. Each of the teams know that they have about 9 minutes to present, and after their presentation, we generally ask questions. Sometimes we interrupt the flow of the conversation and ask questions during the presentation. So if something occurs to you that you want to ask, feel free to do that. I'll just try to stop the clock. Thanks. Is that any better, Trevor? Because I changed networks.
Yeah, it's way better.
Cool. Okay. So who's going to take the floor? Nathan? Jess?
I'll put it up on my screen, Jess, and you can intro us, okay?
That sounds good.
We're going to look at Nathan's screen, and we're going to watch Jess.
All right, can you see it?
We can. Why don't you get started whenever you're ready to.
All right. So this is our concept design, Nathan and I, for our benchmark. We have a site breakdown, some little information that we came up with. Welcome to, I don't know if I want to read, do we want to read this really fast?
Yeah, I can. So I kind of created a quick narrative, just a welcome to Detroit's historic Brush Park, and welcome to the transitional community of City Modern, first of many redevelopment communities of Metro Detroit. 124 Alfred Street is an age-restricted 5-story mixed-use development that blends modern architecture with historical tributes referenced throughout. 124 features 50 units, all with stunning views of the community and Metro Detroit. Lower level parking, cascading terraces, and ample community spaces encourage a sense of place within the building while embracing the neighborhood with an active open village courtyard. In addition, 3,000 square feet of retail space provides local shops that will become the cultural anchor of the community. Through the use of research materials, 124 will complement and ensue the historically preserved nature of the cultural institutions that surround the site while introducing new, flattering skins that revitalize the thriving community. It is important as the building develops to guarantee this new gateway creates a significant impression that becomes an authentic feature of the neighborhood. So we go into the site. We are located on the corner of John R. Street and Alfred. You see some of the featured buildings right next to ours that we're going to try and take some cues from. It's a 25,500 square feet with a max height of 58. We have a parking entrance from the alley on John R. next to the apartments. And then we have an outport going the same southeastern or southwestern direction. This starts to show some of the setbacks that we reference within our design. Both John R. and Alfred have some key pieces that we want to take advantage of. And you start to see how we break down our building with parking in the back, with a retail on the front corner for most exposure, an apartment amenities entrance right off of Alfred Street, and then a public slice right through our design. I'm going to have you take this one, Jess.
I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So just to kind of tell a story for our project and take a step back, we really like the concept of the geode, just breaking it down and seeing a different interior and exterior, and playing around with materials that can go along with that concept. And it's for what we want it to be is a relationship between nature and sort of an urban landscape, an urban city, especially for the target of the age group of this project. So if you go to the next one, this is like another idea of thinking how our site is also played out with Brush Park. It's kind of like taking a cut into a different way of circulating. And here's some diagrams explaining how that cut influences our building design. And then creating a courtyard in between, and that courtyard could be the interior-exterior concept that we talk about in the beginning slides.
So here we have our lower level parking. We have an 8% grade slope on our ramp. We got 42 spaces, including 2 ADA spaces next to the elevator. We've located our storage units on the lower level as well as our generator. We do have a small portion that is unexcavated underneath the ramp. We did throw a few dimensions in there to get that kind of analyzed and understood what we're doing. And then we also show circulation with our stairs in the top corner, the bottom corner, and our elevator in the center here. Next, we have our first floor, which shows where the retail space is on the right, the lobby, and the leasing office right off of that front entry piece, and then a fitness center that breaks out into a courtyard, and Jess will elaborate on that in a little bit. We do have our mechanical hub located within the second part of our building, giving ourselves some of those interior spaces that are a little less appealing towards the parking so that we have access to the exterior. We also have our trash and recycle located on the alley. And then you start to see this cut through our building where we have our structure holding up the upper levels, but then we also see all these different landscapes. Do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah. Actually, a problem that we had last week was the mechanical spaces. We didn't have a correct location for them and their sizes. So now you see where those spaces are. And then with the help of this courtyard, we were able to create some kind of landscape that can hide that back of house kind of spaces, and then create like a implied spaces within this courtyard where you see like those like squared concrete benches essentially. And then we also even do a private area right by the fitness center for anyone who's actually working out. We have modern fold doors that can fold in and then be used to go out into the courtyard as well. So we were definitely trying to improve that space for the courtyard, going from one corner to the other.
So as we go to the second floor, and you'll see this kind of taper away as we get higher, our second floor has our most units. We've broken down the 1 bedrooms, 1 bedroom ADA, 2 bedroom, and then studios. We also have a terrace on each floor so that we can take advantage of some of the tapered design that we're using. We also have a small seasonal room on the second floor that looks down into that open area just to kind of give another little piece of amenity to the patrons. Third, you start to see the building starting to step back. And then slowly it starts to eat away, creating our 5th floor, which our terrace is actually located on the north side. Everything looks down into that courtyard, trying to give everyone a decent view. And then we break down our 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom. A few quick dimensions: 20 foot 4 is our standard width, so that everything is consistent with our studios, 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms. And then our bedroom unit is 30 by 30 foot 5. The yellow demarcates where we're looking at doing a mechanical closet, depending on the system we use. And then most rooms are shown with an ADA rail just to kind of start that conversation, even though we're going to designate only one as an ADA. The 2 bedroom and has that 20 foot 4 along the south edge, and then the overall grows up to be 32 foot, almost 8 inches by 41 foot 2. Again, we have 2 full baths, 1 private bath and 1 public or shared bathroom with the open space. And then our studio, which what we tried to do here, actually, Jess, I'll let you talk about this one.
So one way that the studio kind of makes it's different from the other apartments is we've added also a new terrace that's facing the courtyard. This is very special for only the studios. And then if you look to your left, where the bedroom is, it's a kind of like a customized bedroom with closets on each end. So this space is ultimately customizable to how you want it to. And it's unique for...
Yeah, it's also a Murphy bed. So we're breaking out the space, giving as much to patrons as possible.
So this is courtyard elevation, looking into actually the studios with that terrace. If you see where the railings are, this is looking down into the courtyard, and you're walking through from Alfred Street, and you're cutting down where those structural V-shaped columns are, and that leads you to John R. So there's a specific condition going on here. And then if you follow this one's where the terraces happen at the end of each corridor, and so you start to see like a tapered design for this, and we started to think about like maybe this could be a green wall, and it influences more of like a natural landscape area. So this could be a potential for the next part of this project. I started thinking about like the top material for this courtyard because of the interior exterior concept, and it's going to be either wood cladding with these concrete frames, just to kind of think of how we perceive landscape, if it's like wood and stone or wood and concrete versus the outer layer for facing John R. This is a rendering of that courtyard as well. And look, and this is from John R. Street.
We're also researching some of the window styles, some of the color architecture, so that we get those blends of new skins with old features, so that we really tie in with the site. Some of the skins we've looked at are the Oko skins. Really like. There's again Trespa that we've looked into, and then just a few other high pressure laminates. And then we also broke down the building's geometry. Our orientation is 28 degrees northeast. Our building ratio is 1.13. The ideal is 1.6. I think our size is what's keeping us from maximizing the aspect ratio. But as we break down our surface to volume ratio, you start to see how tapering the spaces, taking advantage of smaller terraces, gets us well below the ideal ratio of 2% at 0.915%. Then we also took the sun study into consideration, doing December, March, which is also fall, and June sun angles, and trying to show how the shadows play as well as taking advantage of that sun light. We also identify circulation with our stairs through 5 stories plus lower level, and the circulation of each corridor. They all stack, so they all kind of work together. We can start to use the corridor as our structural stability. And then we also line up all of our HVAC or potential mechanical closets and mechanical systems back, as well as plumbing, all lining up within the corridor so that we can try and take advantage of that unused space. So that is everything.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to give you the floor,
Oh, thanks.
Michael.
All right. So I think it's a pretty thorough presentation. They have quite a lot of information on all your slides. I got just a kind of range of things. First, I want to talk about the courtyard itself. Yeah, and the solar studies you did, which are interesting. I'm curious if it doesn't seem that that the solar study and where the sun reaches the courtyard doesn't respond to one another so much. If you look at the solar site, the southern part of the building blocks a lot of sun into that courtyard. And you might want to look at the proportions of the courtyard just to make sure it doesn't seem like you're in a canyon. That's my first thought. And then, which is another interesting thing that we have up right now is very open to Alfred Street here. But if you go to the opposite side, where the building covers over it, yeah, here, it looks very enclosed. It's almost as if it's too tight on this side and too open on the other side. So I'd encourage exploring that a little more, in addition to how the sun interacts with this courtyard. Because if it's in shadow all all year round. Would be a challenge. The units are pretty straightforward. They make sense. A couple comments that I'd challenge you to look at is, and this is a challenge designing any multifamily residential, is to try to create a sense of entry into the units, even the one bedrooms and two bedrooms. Frequently, we walk into what more or less is the kitchen space, which you see here, which is not unusual, but it's kind of, if you think about coming into your house at your home, you don't walk into your kitchen. Usually you walk into some other space. And I know these are small units, but there's ways of making a sense of entry before you get into the actual units inside.
Sure.
I'd encourage you to take
Great.
a look at that. Another thing in the plan you might want to take a look at, this is a code kind of thing, is where you're stepping back. On some of the floors, your distance between where you have your terrace to where you have your stairs seems to be quite a distance. I'm not sure if that, you're going to have to be at least more than 50 feet. Otherwise, you're going to have another set of stairs off that terrace, especially if you have the terraces the size they are, might have more than 50 people on them, which would require another set of egress stair off the terrace. So that might be something to look at.
At the Auburn, right, they have a terrace and then they have a stair. They have a door that goes back into the common corridor, which we could imagine is the case here. And then they have an exterior stair from the terrace itself to grade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow what I'm saying, Jess and
Yeah.
Nathan?
Yeah, this is
we do.
Look at the size of the terrace and the distance from the terrace back to the stair. It might be a little light, so you probably end up having to put a stair on the exterior, which could be fun. I mean, you could do something with it into the courtyard
Definitely.
space.
That could engage the landscape that they proposed for those spaces.
Definitely.
Become a sculptural in much the way the structural system is trying to be sculptural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
But you have terraces overlooking terraces, correct? So you might actually have, depending on your travel distance, like on this plan, you may not need that exterior stair.
Yeah, and they only get closer to the stairs, so maybe the second floor, which becomes almost a feature space, has that amenity to it.
And if the terrace can actually be something that is sized so that it has the maximum allowable occupant load relative to one exit, that may not trigger the second stairway, guys. So in other words, the terrace may be this large rectangular footprint that you've got shown now, but maybe the decking surface is only on, one half of it.
Yeah.
Right? And the other half is rooftop units and so on.
Sure.
You follow what I'm saying? So that you reduce the occupiable footprint of the terrace.
Yeah.
You reduce
Well,
maybe we
and
can do maybe putting
we have the
planters
benefit
there.
of being on top of the mechanical space, so that could become. Any other questions? Hello?
Can you go up one time?
I guess maybe go to the ground plan.
I guess the only concern, or it's an observation, I don't know that it's a concern, but the only observation I have is that when you remote the electrical room, when you remote mechanicals and all of that sort of infrastructure, which usually has some sort of, piping or conduit and the like, it usually means that that stuff home runs in the room that you've, indicated there, electrical, mechanical, meter, and so forth. And then that piping, if you will, drops below the floor slab and runs across, I guess, to the building. So underneath this plaza and in the ceiling of the parking realm might be all of this stuff to service, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of those retail spaces and fitness rooms and lobbies and whatnot on the other corner. I guess thinking through the way that distribution happens isn't really clear to me.Maybe an axonometric will help make that clearer. And I guess the other option is to take it straight up to the building masses which is sitting above those spaces, because the roofs of those mechanical and electrical rooms are really the footprints of those terraces. So I don't know that solution is possible. But I want you to think about that, because you're creating kind of a hardship just in terms of how all that stuff gets to the main building.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's some sort of shaft assembly that runs up from electrical and mechanical, then runs across the floor decks of the residential units above.
We do have, we've looked at about 4 feet of interstitial space. Obviously that includes structure and everything, but our electrical, none of this needs to be high open. The path from the meter room to the overhead area, I'm wondering if we can feed through this passage here that is just exterior space, so we could case that in or seal that in and then take advantage of the roof of the ceiling and the unoccupied
maybe,
space.
I guess, a cross section through there, like along column 5, might help explain that to you.
Okay.
Is there any reason why? What was your rationale behind putting the more open side of the courtyard to Alfred versus John R?
Well, the Robertson house is right next to the corner of Alfred. So in a way, it was kind of like having a connection between that building and also that other corner of the building.
We were trying to play a little bit with that setback and just accept the building over here to our left, and then allow our building to kind of settle into its space. That's why these also taper. So we're not competing against the architecture of the original building.
We didn't want to also we didn't want to feel like putting a big building mass next to that pretty beautiful landmark building. So it's kind of in a way collaborating.
You need a site plan or a site plan diagram that explains the pressure that this historical property is having on your building and why it's causing you to, tip your hat, right?
Sure.
The way you're trying to defer to it. It's what you're saying is, compelling and interesting, but it's not coming through. It's not coming through this explanation.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to go to the elevations for a moment? So I'm assuming at this point you need further development of the elevations.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Because the original concept with the geode showed a very interesting dichotomy between the exterior and what the interior is, which isn't reading through right now in the elevations. I think part of that is because there's materials associated with that. But, that certainly needs to be further developed.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
That's kind of
part of our concept. Go on.
I'm remembering the one. I'm remembering the one. I think it's a Aloha building where the exteriors that face the street have one texture, one color, one material sensibility, and then the interior courtyards or the interior faces, which ultimately appear like they've been cut in section, have a different material sensibility. Think of like white with bright yellow or white with bright orange, so that you get that the sort of notion of the geode as a motive.
There's another project I saw, I don't remember, in New Orleans that has a real, very solid brick exterior, and the inside is much lighter, more windows, much lighter material. And again, it has that differentiation of the two.
Yeah. It's almost also like, I think what influenced this is like something like Louis Kahn's Slough Institute, how he uses concrete with his windows and the wood in the windows, going along with that difference in relationship with the materials.
Can you pull up the other elevation?
So if you see the between column line 2 and 3, that wall right there is also the elevator wall. So this could potentially become a green wall to kind of bring more of that natural landscape feel to this too.
Street elevations?
I'm sorry, what?
You have street elevations.
No, we don't have one yet, but we have the rendering. Yeah.
Right.
I think, can we go back to that courtyard view? Yeah, I think the elevator may pop up higher than that one top target line. Sculpturally, right, and formally, there's going to be the sort of impression of that. That may be actually to your benefit. But I guess where I'm going is that so that you should all try to make sure that you capture elevator overruns, right? That, you know, if you're going to have program on the roof, for example, that needs accessibility, that would likely require accessibility, then the elevator needs to get up there, and it's going to have some impression, right, on the roof silhouette. But also sort of picking at the point that I'm picking up here, which is that you're also trying to show an elevation that has some profile to it, that it actually rises and falls relative to the street. There's tapers and angles. I'm not sure if that's a silhouette condition or if that's a mansard condition. Can you explain that real quick? Yeah, right where your cursor.
Yeah, so we were as we were like finishing this up, we were just thinking of like tapering the roof to give it just a different form. So that's I think that's still ongoing. It was something that we were trying out, but we want to explore.
It's an attempt to start to screen some of the facilities that we'll have up there in order to keep the building uninterrupted, trying to give it that soft feeling at the top.
Yep.
But also try and just mask some of the systems that we'll have up there.
Right. So the question might be, can that actually start at the 4th floor? That might be another way to explore that, so that instead of it just beginning at the right, instead of it beginning at that very top target line, what's the possibility of it happening just below your cursor line, so that the mass of the building, in this case, arguably, it's a pretty big mass, right? Because it's kind of it's more than a C. Your footprint is more like a J, right? The letter J. Yeah. So one concern might be that it's a little, it's getting to be kind of hefty, right?
Yeah.
Big bone, right? So that's something that I think you want to be alert to. Can you go back to the renderings real quick? Yeah, so like in this view, it might be helpful to somehow move the camera lens further west to grab in the right-hand side the historic property that you're trying to acknowledge.
Yeah.
And that maybe the footprint and the conditions that you're sort of designing for in that forecourt are actually like the footprint of a house that might have sat there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that there's some basis for this geometry that might be worth looking at. You know, you can discover these footprints, you guys, when you look up the city in history through something called the Sanborn maps, right? So you can go back to the various intervals along the course of time and see what actually sat on these properties even 100 years ago, and it's all very interesting when you do that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think some more context-driven diagrams would help your case here. I don't think necessarily anything you're doing is incongruent with any of that, but you don't tell the story by showing, you know, you could show an elevation of the street wall and how your building relates or doesn't relate to adjacent buildings, and similarly, like Mark said earlier, a site plan and how the different pieces move. And Mark brings up a good point. This site certainly had other things on it. So what's its historic context? What was here before it was just an empty lot? And does your building or not respond to that?
Sure.
Yeah, sometimes compositionally, right? It's a point of departure, you know, so that might be interesting. But yeah. I'd like, I know we have to move on to the next group, and I believe Professor Farrow has just arrived, so I want to welcome him. But I want to say that this is a pretty impressive package, right? It doesn't have all the elevations, but it has elevations. It doesn't necessarily have several 3D views, but it has effective 3D views that have indicated context, and they've indicated, you know, the relationship of window to the solid conditions around those windows. It has convincing floor plans. It has large unit plans that are both drawn in plan as well as axonometric, so they have that kind of marketing package vibe. There's an enlarged elevation drawing that is relational to a wall section, right? They're drawn at the same scale, and they're drawn in composition, one next to the other, so that when you look at an elevation, for example, you're also thinking of it as a sectional condition. This is a very important point of departure for the kind of information that we're going to expect in the benchmark that's literally 1 month from tonight. The package also starts with a story about a short story that we probably don't need to read each time, you guys, but it's a story that contextualizes why you're doing what you're doing here, rather than just jumping in, right, with the explanation of the project. So there's some commendations due you for that, and then just the idea, right, that there is an idea that's motivating all of this. This notion of a geode, something from nature. This is a terrific starting point, right, for any project. So I think in all, you know, you have the plumbing and the HVAC axonometrics. It's not completely worked out, but you know that it's an issue, and you're trying to document it. So I feel like this is a very appropriate package for a pair of students to be working out together for a benchmark at this moment in the semester. And so this is really where we wanted to see you all this month. So I want to basically say that to you both, but also to sort of telegraph that praise, right, to everyone else here. All right. So thanks.
Great. Awesome.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure. Go ahead, Dan.
Hi. How are you? I'm sorry I'm delayed.
No problem.
I don't want to go back and forth. I know that Nathaniel and I exchanged some emails recently, and I expect that if he needs to go over that with me, we can do something later.
Sure.
And you can just send me your file or something, and I can respond to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that'd be great.
So going forward, I guess a couple of quick questions. I noticed you have those columns. Can you go back to the image you were showing a moment ago? I noticed you have those V columns again.
Mhm.
So are those aligning with column locations of the floors above?
Actually, they're supporting a concrete slab that is tied into the underside. Will connect it through a shear wall here, and then connect it to the concrete. So we're just creating this diaphragm that's stabilized by the structure. And then the idea is a wood structure above that we would use the corridors as supporting walls.
Okay, so it's a wall load-bearing system?
Yes,
And
above the first floor.
The columns are there to help the cantilever condition?
Correct.
Okay. On the left-hand side of the image there, I see what looks like a second level flat roof. Is that a walkout condition?
That is actually a seasonal room. So
Okay.
it's contained within the building. It's an amenity. It was created by our parking, but it became a feature that we could use as kind of a three seasons room or some kind of a back patio type space for the
So
community.
is it conditioned or not conditioned?
It would be conditioned.
It would be conditioned. Okay.
But it's a room. It's a room that can enjoy the patio, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with all the comments that I heard thus far, and I also think it's an intriguing idea to look at something like a Sanborn map to figure out what was the pattern of the built footprints of buildings in the past. I mean, to a certain extent, you could ask the question, well, what do I do in terms of designing this space? But basically, you know, you could find inspiration and make it work in a variety of perspectives. I don't think it's an absolute situation where you have to have only one condition for that. So I think that's an intriguing idea. I do have a question though about security. Do you need to have security in conditions for these spaces?
So we've started looking at containing some of the courtyard area, the gym area, for instance. Yeah. We would contain with the architecture.
Okay.
The potential to introduce gates within the space to contain a central piece of the courtyard would probably be wise, just for the interior sake, since that's more private space, even though it's all open. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've started looking into that.
I mean, I can see how you could enclose the area where the large overhang is. That wouldn't be difficult, but certainly the other side of the open space, it may be difficult for me at least to project how that might be enclosed, but nonetheless. One other comment, I don't know if Professor Farlow talked about or not. I know can you go back to a perspective or something for a quick minute? The use of sort of would look to me like standard Revit elements, for example, like the hand railing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my only perception when I've done some things in studios is to try to stay away from those if we know that there is some opportunity for a designed element, perhaps, that we would prefer.
Sure.
But I realize this is a first initial idea, so.
Actually, that's a really intriguing point to build on, right, for all of us to think about. I mean, there are just some things that, and I mean, this is a fairly not complicated, but a complex building in terms of its massing, in terms of its footprint, in terms of the diagonal cutting through it relative to the footprint of the building above it. But at the end of it all, it's a pretty straightforward building, and I commend you for that. But I think, like in the context of what Professor Farrow is saying, right, there are moments in a project like this where, like, the railings are places where you do flex your muscles, your design chops. Those sort of spindly columns. Like, what do those actually look like? How do they meet the diaphragm up above? How do they meet the ground down below? Is there a bench there? Are they textured? Are they colored? So those are moments, right, where you can kind of flex your muscles and thump your chest as a designer to sort of, you know, make this a little bit more memorable, and instead of just using the default Revit, right, template or block that we do. So being deliberate, right, and intentional with even these little things, because the little things can help make the big project good.
So, you know, the extent of that would be, for example, as we talked about last time, being careful with not having too many materials or components. So, you know, simply extending, could we extend the wall up, for example, to become that guardrail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that might go back to
Yeah.
the question of the need to put those, I think what were referred to kind of mansard type elements on the roof.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, if we're already extending that element up and we're detailing it or designing it to be a guardrail, well,
Good
follow
point.
that through on the main elevation as your screen for some mechanical.
Right. And that material doesn't have to be opaque once it starts to become the railing, Jess, and then it can become porous, for example, depending, of course, right on the material that you're choosing.
Right.
So there are ways that you can maintain the same material, but start to change its maybe porosity or texture or spacing, right? So that it's also a guardrail at the same time. But I love that idea.
My only last quick question would be is that it looks like a lot of the, maybe I'm mistaken, but some of the spaces that are on the courtyard side don't seem to have fenestration or windows. And I do wonder about the nature of security and safety when we have spaces that don't appear to be supervised with visual supervision. Am I making any sense?
Are you saying along here?
Right. They seem like there's no window or fenestrations there.
Those are the mechanical spaces, and I think the one
Okay.
idea that we're thinking about is having green walls or incorporating more landscape
Right.
there.
I'm just saying, maybe it's a question for the seniors, and being in an urban environment that may not be the safest. I don't know. I can't tell you, but the notion that there would be sort of eyes on the street, or in this case, eyes on the courtyard, might be something to think about.
We do have on our first floor, our leasing office is in the corner, which
Okay.
has some visual, and then we do have tie-ins throughout
Okay.
on this northern building. But the southern portion, you are correct. There could be some
Okay.
pockets.
I see your fitness center looks onto it, so that's good.
I mean, the building maintenance room could have a door and windows in it.
Yeah, right here. That would solve all our issues. So yes.
I think this brings up Professor Farrell with a security question brings up an interesting philosophical discussion here about the green space. Is this truly public space, or is this actually a courtyard only for the residents? Because right now it's open to everyone and implying that it's essentially a street that's cut diagonally through the site.
Right.
Which is one philosophical position you can take, that this development is actually giving back to the community in that way. But then you would treat that differently than if you were starting to enclose this courtyard. I think it's less compelling if you start securing off this area than the simple solution is you put gates around the thing and let the residents use it.
So let's follow. I mean,
Hello.
One idea would be to go back to Professor Farlow's notion of looking, and I think it was an intriguing idea and a good one, to look at Sanborn maps to see what sort of built-in element was there, right? I mean, what if you could reconstruct a facade of a house or something around that corner, or the walls of around that corner that would be made maybe of a metal grating or something, so it looks like it's this interesting visual element that replicates what was there in the block, but does give you security, right? And does have the ability to be opened up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you do have to have a clear decision between Professor Farlow, what level of security or openness is going to be accepted there. I mean, we'd all love to see it basically as being public, I would think. But the question is that something you think that owners, for example, would be comfortable with?
It's really interesting because just across the street on Brush is the Presbyterian Village, which I call the OPP, right? The Old People's Prison. And that whole thing is wrapped, right, in a 6 foot tall wrought iron gate. Like seniors like me, once I'm banished to live there. Once I get to be that age, right? I can't get out. So I'm like hanging at the fence, like dreaming about like walking into city modern development and yearning to like have human contact with the rest of the world. I would love it when we got to a point in Detroit. I don't think I'll be alive when this happens, but like when that fence could come down, right? When the way that we secure our premises is with eyes on the street in the fashion, right, of Jane Jacobs, right, in terms of what she talks about. But yeah, you're raising a good question. A question really that we might not ask if this was in, gosh, downtown Birmingham, right, or downtown Royal Oak or downtown Northville. But it's a question that we have to ask because it's a hard question. But it's a question we have to ask in our urban centers. And in a way, it's a damn shame. But we need to move on.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay, good. Thanks, guys. So who's next?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it you guys? Great. So this is Stefan. Okay, that's Stefan. So should I?
I guess you keep your microphone on, and we can just turn on our microphones.
So
Yeah.
So we'll be able to hear you.
And I'll have my microphone on.
Great. Okay. So can you guys out of town hear this conversation?
Can you hear us?
You'll need to project your voice.
Can you hear us?
I can hear Stefan.
Okay. Okay, you have your microphone on, or we're going through your microphone? Okay.
How did we do this the other night?
I think one of you has speaker on and microphone on.
Yeah.
Yeah, just keep it on one computer. Yeah.
Okay, so my microphone's on and my sound is on.
My mic is on.
So everyone can hear us right now? Some thumbs? Yep. Right. Good?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. So this is our mixed-use apartment building for Brush Park. So I'm just going to start off with a brief analysis, just showing different amenities within a kilometer of our site. Well, there's a lot going on, so we can understand that there's going to be a fair bit in traffic as well as some street traffic there. So then we're gonna go into this. So this is just illustrating the whole building to our south here and some smaller buildings around us. So we're gonna try and later on we're gonna show that we're stepping up and stepping down on different sides of our building to sort of to the mess. We're showing that the vehicle access is off of the alley here. Main apartment pedestrian access is going to be off of, and then the retail is showing off of John Hart there. Went into our preliminary, and so we did something similar as we took different aspect ratios, did energy analysis using a green building studio. And so we were comparing the use intensity for the different shapes, and we found we actually found it wasn't the most energy efficient. I think the reason why is because another group found that it was, but I think that we were using maybe there might have been more roof on ours, on our L shape, so may have been some more energy heat loss and heat gain. But the point of this slide is to show that it's close to being the most efficient energy use. We're taking this and we have to balance it with the fact that the L shape practical use for the occupants of our program with the building.
But, John,
design development tool. Yep. Yep, Dan?
Well, I got to ask a couple of questions before you move on.
Yep.
The first one would be the lower right-hand one, which is the L-shaped building, which I presume is the one you're going to work with. Seems to be about twice the volume of the other four. And then secondly,
Well, so that image is just blown up a little bit because that's the one we're choosing.
okay, all right, then I would suggest that you make them all the same size because it doesn't show what looks like a comparison of equals. Does that make sense?
Again?
And then secondly, would in fact the square on the upper left and the rectangle just beneath it, would in fact they really be viable as residential floor plates to satisfy the program, or would we have a problem with them?
No, so that's what I'm trying to say here is that the rectangular are the most efficient energy. However, they're not the most efficient use for programming reasons. So
Well, then
if
my suggestion would be the lower left, upper right C shape and the L. If those are the only ones that could viably hold the program with, you know, daylight, light and air and all that and accommodate your spaces, maybe those would be the three to show. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because really, if the two on the left, upper left, they're not your project. They're something else, right?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. With that, so we went with the L shape, and then so further energy analysis through the L shape. So we sort of do our baseline with just an L shape, and then we're starting to do the step backs. We're starting to carve out on John R. and access 10-foot step back at the detail, and then on the main floor we're doing step mechanical space on the top of floor 4 and some balcony area. So showing that as we're starting to further develop the massing of our building, it is affecting density and the energy usage of the building. And it's something that we're going to keep track of as we progress through the design and further building envelopes and wall ratios. So if you see here, we're at 40% glazing. So as we further develop our window to wall ratio, and that's going to improve our energy intensity. So it's something that we're just going to move along here.
John? You know, just looking at the image of that, it looks like you're almost 100%, you know, you're very high level of glazing with huge ribbon windows. Is that truly your building?
Yeah.
It is. Okay.
And it's 40%. So this is using the 40 as ASHRAE states that like 40 is the maximum. So I went with 40 just so that we could compare throughout the development. And then once we develop our windows, get a more accurate representation of.
And is this what's so-called normal insulation, or have you adjusted insulation?
No, this is going to be our default value.
Oh, this is a baseline?
Yeah.
Okay. And really, I guess the question I would say then is this your baseline, or is the ASHRAE 90.1, which is, what is it, 47? Is that a better baseline?
So that's the ASHRAE 90.1 2013 mid-rise apartments.
Yes.
Their energy usage intensity. Our use of the ones that are next to the picture there. So as
no, I understand that, but I'm looking at it from the standpoint of establishing a benchmark comparison.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we use the ASHRAE 90.1, the 47.8? I'm sorry, I can't really read it.
Well, the point of these energy analysis are to then document how the energy is changing as we are developing.
I understand that, but when you're also looking at lead points, don't they also look at a baseline benchmark as the so-called average building?
Yes, but that's after we fully developed our mass, our, so this is sort of this is the development.
Okay, we'll talk, I'll talk about that later. Thank you.
Okay. So this slide here is our envelope. So this is talking things that we're thinking about for the construction of the envelope. Clip and rail system so we can get continuous installation, and then peel and stick non-permeable membrane underneath the continuous insulation so that we can have a airtight building. So there's a couple different panel systems that we're looking at, phenolic panels, and then cementitious siding. So we'll look at using different materials. System is going to be the with an ERV system so that we can exhaust air before exhausting it, and then that's just a typical HVAC system for a typical one bedroom. For structural, we're looking at poured in place concrete podium with and CLT above that on the podium, and then DLT floor systems. That's just what we're looking at. To the right is just sort of vanilla how the structural system is going to lay there. So, and then we also have the HVAC in there, so it's kind of showing that even if we have the glulam beams, it's still roughly the height that we want.
I'm sorry,
and
is
then
there a concrete supporting level 2?
So we have the basement of the garage,
Yeah,
and the ground floor, and then level 2 podium, which would be concrete.
I'm asking what is supporting level 2? I don't see a beam there at the edge.
Concrete
Column and
columns. You're right. There is. Yeah, we would need a.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so jumping into our design approach, we kind of looked at the properties adjacent to our site, and we wanted to kind of capture the views and those those sight lines into our project. So we started off with looking at different shapes, and we settled on the L shape. And so we thought to kind of harness because of our orientation and where the site works, we want to have a courtyard. Pretty much being exposed to most of the sunlight. So the way that we kind of, it came to be was an L shape based off of John R. and Alfred, and having an interior courtyard. So this just kind of gives you step by step how we kind of looked at it, and we started reducing the shape just to kind of figure out what we need based on the number of suites and how much space we actually close them. Level, we've kind of got the 50 parking spots that we were required. I've mapped out the travel distance between the staircases, and at a 10% grade slope for the ramp down. Moving on to the first floor.
Excuse
so
me.
Our main
Sorry, could you back up a quick minute?
Sure.
Stefan? Okay,
Yeah.
column line E, intersection of column line 5. Am I mistaken, or is that passing through a stair landing?
It's going to be on the outside. I already moved the stair over a little bit.
Okay,
So
you know what I'm talking about then.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So moving on to the ground floor, we wanted to have our main lobby off of Alfred, and keeping the retail on John R. and as the corner condition. So it kind of naturally laid out that we'd have the main lobby there with the elevator banks and all the back of house kind of closer to the south side on John Street,
Yeah,
So
I'm
moving
sorry,
on.
I'm sorry, I'm still perplexed as I look at column C4 and column line C. At that level, it looks like that's also passing through something in the stairs, like the landing level.
No, it's just outside of the landing.
Okay. Oh, that's the floor line. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. But that's just the section
Okay,
cut.
that's fine. Okay.
All right. Kind of transitioning to the second floor then. So we kind of kept trying to maximize the amount different amounts of spaces and units. Variety. What is there?
I'm muted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So based on the floor itself, of studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, kind of trying to get an average of 4 play.
Put her on the phone. Put her on the phone.
Okay. So one of the big things was wanted to have a common space for the building, and so we wanted to have it kind of close courtyard. So putting it in that location where kind of the pivoting point of the 2 wings to us made sense to us. Kind of the foreplay continues, and we have the exercise room that's open to below for what's it called for our uses. Floor maintains the same approach that we have at levels, and it still has everything, and it differs once we get to the 5th floor. We're to the 8 units to max out at 50 units for the So now I'm just going to walk through the elevations. So it's kind of simple and just use recesses and protrusions from the balconies to create a different look to the building. So looking at both the north and the south elevation, it's mostly a clean a few transitions based off those balconies. On the east and the west, we've incorporated screening and a new way of kind of looking at the balconies and providing a little bit more privacy. And then we're just kind of the sections and just kind of looking at how they were breaking up through the building, which finally brings us to a few just images of the building overall compared to the surroundings. And that's that.
We're gonna take over the volume of the mic.
Can we back up a few slides to the HVAC, please? So which of the options that I suggested is this?
Why we chose
Number one, it was suggested in the brief, and number two, I think it makes it easy for the developer to keep track of, units, utility usage for each. You
Okay.
don't have a central HVAC on the roof.
I'm sorry, is it option 3 then? Is that correct? Hello?
One second.
You need
Sorry,
answers.
I just can't remember. what
Oh, I
was
think we have a mic, so. we
Because
can-
the mic's over there and you're talking over
Yeah.
here.
Oh, what do you mean? Based on
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing anything.
Hey, Dan, sorry. Yeah, we're not sure which option that comes from.
Okay,
But-
well, my only comment is you're referring to it as an ERV,
Can you,
right?
sorry, one more time?
You're referring to it as an ERV.
Yeah,
I believe that energy recovery ventilator is just referring to one component of the fresh air intake in the exhaust system. I don't think that's describing the unit.
right. So my understanding is we're gonna have the magic pack for our main HVAC unit, and then we're gonna have an additional so that our exhaust from the washrooms and the kitchen area will go through the
Okay.
ERV over that energy and then go into the
Okay,
return.
it just might be helpful to describe the unit perhaps more fully.
In the,
Yeah, and as I said, ERV is one of the components, but you're correct. It's something you would want to have to add efficiency, so.
and ERV over HR then will help regulate insure as well. I think ERV is my understanding.
On the two lines that are green on the back, is that a return? Are those returns?
Okay, so these green here are exhaust fumes
Okay.
from the washroom and then over the stove. And then that's gonna run into the ERV and then out of the exterior. And,
Is that the way they're supposed to be hooked up?
a kitchen and a bathroom into the same line.
Yeah,
I think it depends how you do it. I think
okay. I would have thought they're just a vertical stack that exits out of the unit, but you're saying you're gonna run it through the magic pack, is that right?
through, so the exhaust goes through the ERV.
Okay,
That way we can keep some of our unit
okay.
rather than just losing it straight up.
Just exhausting it out of the building.
Right.
Okay. I had a question about the phenolic panels.
Yep.
I'm not sure, did Professor Farlow express some concern about those last time?
I've been something about delaminating.
I'm just a little concerned that they will eventually oil can and they will eventually delaminate, but we're talking 25 years, right?
Okay,
There's different and maybe better products that are metal panel that could be insulated or not. Not insulated would be like a rain screen system, which would complement the continuous insulation sort of protocol that you guys have sort of established. I'm not sure what your experience with the phenolic core metal panels are, Mike, or what your preference is.
Yeah, I haven't had much. My preference would be to pick the most durable material that you can afford to do. So that being brick or some kind of cementitious metal or stone or something like that. Then metal panel would be next in terms of just overall durability. The phenolic panels haven't been around that long. No one really has a really good track record with them. This particular slide is interesting. I would, it looks like you're suggesting bad insulation in the stud cavity,
Yeah.
but you go further on into using CLT panels, which would be solid panels. So all your insulation, and ideally, I would, even if you were doing a cavity wall, I would do all your insulation outboard of the, none in the stud cavity, because all it does is cause potential condensation issues inside your stud cavity, and it's a much cheaper construction to do it all outside the envelope rather than having two different insulation installations, if you will.
Okay.
Just to clarify,
Just what I was
what we were
looking
thinking
were
was
CLT for the floors and roof. Maybe not for the walls, but maybe the argument for the floors and roof, we should do it for the walls.
Yeah, I wouldn't mix trades. If you're going to do it for the floors, do it for the whole thing. Then you have one contractor just takes ownership of everything. But 2 points to this that you need to think through further on into your plans. And I mean, this is good research, but it needs to inform what the plans are doing. So a CLT panel system is essentially a load-bearing wall panel system. So your plan, maybe I just couldn't tell. It doesn't have like where the load-bearing walls are. Are you bearing corridor and exterior? Are you bearing interior wall to wall? Because that suddenly informs the building, how it goes up and down. They're just like columns. So you have to run those all the way up and down, and then where they come down on the podium is where your column lines should end up going.
Right.
So otherwise, you're introducing expensive transfers at the slab level. That being said, I would love to see a CLT building built, but there's just some rules about it that you need to be cognizant of as you're planning out the rest of the building when you're using such a thing. And then likewise, the magic packs, just be cognizant is that you're going to have a grill outside every unit on the exterior, and they're not particularly nice looking grills. And magic packs aren't particularly the highest quality HVAC system because they're noisy and they break down more often than other types of systems.
Okay.
But there's a limit to what you're going to have to do to your elevations because of that decision. And then likewise, if you take the CLT framing system, that is going to inform how your plan develops. So I don't know.
There was in example HVAC in this particular suite, we were having the air intake off of the balcony hides that from the street view. But I think there would be certain suites where we would have
Right.
so we would still have that problem.
So you like in the conversation we had a moment ago about the handrails, right? You use that as a design opportunity, which is what we did. We designed our own sort of figure ground pattern of those openings, right? We achieved the net-free area that we were required, but we also made, honestly, something kind of beautiful. I hope we can.
So even if we're
sense that when we're standing on the street looking up 2, 3, 4 floors, but it's there.
So we can try and use them in some sort of way.
Yeah.
That creates enough. Okay.
On your page 8, which had multiple slides of how you developed.
I have my sound
Sound on here.
Okay.
I just remembered that.
You did it.
So page 8.
Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Should I mute my mic?
Because I just realized that.
I already muted on that. Okay. So, my bad.
Okay, page 8 on the multiple slides, where you have multiple images. If this was a presentation, like a board presentation, that would be fine. Maybe bigger, but I think they're too small.
Okay.
In general, presenting it, there, that one page, and number 8.
Yes. Sorry.
What I would find more effective if you need is that you could go through each of these images quickly, individually, large scale, single plates, as opposed to trying to show 6 ideas on one slide. Make sure, and this is just a general comment, try to make it have one point that you want to make.
Okay.
Layer on multiple things. generally, the plans are pretty well developed. I'm not sure I completely understand the floor plans. They seem odd. I'm not sure if the uppers, talking the units in particular.
The units.
I'm not sure how they were, you can explain how you developed with that.
For in terms of the different types, or
It looks like you have 8 different types of units on each floor.
originally once we developed was stay 1 bedroom, and once we started putting it in building shape, a few of them had to kind of be shifted a little, actually kind of changed into different modules of the same thing, based off the same idea, just to kind of use the space, kind of giving it up. So for instance, if I would use the same, let's say the same bedroom on the other side, either the washroom would or the bedroom would be too large. So I kind of want with a little bit more, I guess, better proportions with the spaces in terms of that.
A quick question.
It would help you to overlay the column, how you're,
Okay.
these are really load bearing walls, then those are gonna go on. In particular, like the corner unit, how you get to this corner is kind of a circuitous corridor, which is a little awkward.
Okay.
You make the units what you want the units to be, and then see how that informs your exterior. It sounds like you did the opposite. You figured out what your exterior wanted to look like, and then just fit the units in there.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Dan?
I think maybe we talked about this last time, that the location of those exterior HVAC units, would they be better disposed at the interface between the wall that divides the 1 bedroom that from the living room from the bedroom, rather than in a corner of a unit? More centrally located, in other words?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to make those changes yet.
Okay, so if you can zoom out for a minute, just a little bit, just zoom out a little bit. Okay. Sorry, scroll up. Scroll up. Okay. So at B3, right? Column line B3, that unit would go to the left, correct? And then would it be embedded along the bedroom side wall? And then could it be, I guess it can't be combined within a closet because the closet's down below, but nonetheless.
Yeah, but we could also move it over to the other side and kind of embed into the adjacent balcony.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be serving you've got some runs to serve the bedroom, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you given any thought to the ground for the exterior site on the side of the building?
For the finishes?
The ground floor.
Ground floor.
There is a loading unloading area that we sort of tucked in there.
Well, but you've got the alley.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think you all should leverage the presence of the alley as the de facto, right,
Loading area.
loading floor,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what that then allows you to leverage on top of that is that having to pave north into the site to the extent that you're doing. I mean, if your plan for the underground parking works, right, if you're able to resolve the structural grid and achieve the 50 spaces and put all that other crap down there, like the generator, the stairs, the elevator lobby, and the elevators, then you have this unique opportunity with that hyper efficient lower level to privilege like meaningful ground floor spaces, right?
Some sort of
or
amenity.
kinds of programs that Nathan and Jess were talking about,
Okay.
Yeah.
and or gardens for the homeowners, or God forbid shuffleboard courts for role park. So think of the ground floor as an active program participant, not just like residual.
Yeah.
The way you have your plans set up, that's gonna be sunny all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's the south side of the building. But
There's the tall building south of us.
Yeah, there's that.
But there might
but,
be-
But we're also kind of in the north.
So there will
That
be,
opens up,
yeah.
right, that courtyard at 1 o'clock probably.
Yeah.
On a June.
There.
I think. I'm not taking issue with Michael about the plans. I think they will wreak havoc. You know, if you go that, you know, walls as bearing walls and walls and, sort of a conception and clarity to them. But for me, they provide kind of idiosyncratic, quirky kind of experiences where no unit is like the mirror or Fred's unit or Ethel's unit, right? It's kind of individuality within the community. You can see where, you know, that might be a virtue, right? It might be more, you might think of like the rate of rent for some of these units. You know,
Yeah.
the higher the quirk factor, the higher the rate of rate. So that there might be ways to sort of think about it that way. Class like this is a really good exercise. And you're pissed off in about 4 weeks and, you know, things aren't resolving the way you want them to structurally and constructionally. But from a marketing perspective, these kind of have a New York vibe to them, and that might be interesting.
Okay.
Can we go to the elevations real quick? I know we're out of time.
Yep.
We're always out of time. I guess let's maybe the perspectives, the elevation. We can look at the elevations. So these elevations and right now are rendered. They have kind of a 1929 internet aesthetic. I want you to be aware of that. There's signal, not because I'm from that era. And so there's something about that era that's compelling, right? They were interested in taut skins. They were interested in maritime or nautical aesthetics. So the railings and the windows had that kind of sensibility to them. They look like open liners, if you will. They had kind of an Art Deco vibe to them as well. So I want you to be aware of that. But there are people like Richard Meyer, Charles Guathmy, who did this building, among them, who have like taken that aesthetic from the 1930s and transformed it into something more modern. And like Meyer, they've taken the metal panel design motif for his work. So those as examples to I think that will be helpful. I want to ask Dan if he's got any.
Hey, Dan, do you have any questions? Sorry, I had you.
I was having trouble hearing Professor Farlow. I think he's talking about those look like shading elements in the elevation. Is that correct?
We were just talking about the overall, the style is cognizant of a 1929 international style. And maybe we can like riff on that as we go forward.
Well, what is the, it looks like an X, like basket weave material that's somewhere in the middle regions of the east elevation. What is that material? Yes, that there.
So it was more kind of perforated panels. Yeah, we're right adjacent to the building. Well, there's a building adjacent to or across the street from us. So we're kind of looking at it and kind of closing it off. And this was just one of the iterations ago. It's still subject to change.
Okay.
But now we're throwing around the idea of a perforated panel, kind of.
What is its purpose for you?
Visual, like concealment of the neighbor across the street.
It's a privacy screen, in other words?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. There, if you look under the recent assignment information I sent you on different systems like structure and HVAC, there was a section in the assignment about enclosing materials. And there are some options for screening. You might want to look at them. I think that might make reference to what Professor Farlow was talking about in terms of other, maybe alternate material choices that are more in line with so-called modern architecture.
Okay.
That'd be my suggestion.
Okay. Thank you.
So Cody and Richard.
Other than the structural issues that we identified earlier with the column placements, I don't see any issue. I'm assuming at this point or soon you will know that your building meets the construction type requirements for height and area, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, Stefan, you did the work in that, so you should be able to have that identified for the lab, right?
We will, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
How are the balconies supported?
Oh my God. Right now, we're still kind of looking at that. I think when I spoke to you last, we were thinking of possibly doing some kind of condition for the corners that would possibly putting down a column down well, not corner, and create some kind of corner condition like that.
Okay, was it supposed to be the wood floor that would be projecting out?
Right now, yeah, we weren't sure of, but now since we're going with CLT, we want to kind of keep the same material throughout. So we're just going to look in different options of how we can support that without compromising the integrity.
Well, and I think the other important issue is, will that have to be fire treated?
I have to double check that.
Yeah, I know you might not have the answer now, but that in also looking at your exterior enclosing panels as well.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, we're going to take a break.
All right. How much time for break?
10 minutes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I got it. Go on, talk about the old long if you want.
Where do you buy a barbecue?
laptop is everybody. We can probably just
Just wait for him. Is Dan there?
Oh, the Renaissance? Yes.
Why are there two Sharpies?
Yes. Yes.
I was emptying my backpack out and there was 4 Tide pens. Because I didn't get really dirty. Because they put it all in here. You like the material on this bag? Yeah.
Bring that trade already? I'm ready.
It just means you spend a lot on yourself. No, it means wonderful. Okay, Dan, can you hear me?
We're gonna get started.
Okay, I hope Dan can hear.
Yes, I can.
No?
Thanks, Daniel.
You. How do I do this? Okay, can everyone see? Oh, that's not the first slide, but there we go. You ready?
Yeah. So here, just to introduce the overall view of the project, we've taken a very ecologically positive approach to the overall building, as you can see in the cover slide. Next sheet. Our site is down in Brush Park. And this particular slide is kind of laying out all the nearby locations for a particular LEED credit meant for access to nearby goods and services that are within walking distance. And that there is a half-mile walking distance from our site to many different amenities, including museums, coffee shops, sports arenas, and the like. And then the rest of the hatches on there indicate other types of neighborhoods that are nearby. So we set up some main goals for ourselves and the particular location for the building. And these main goals include a sustainable objective, a universal accessibility, and the integration of baby boomer culture. And the sustainability objectives, we outlined some of the strategies, how we would achieve that, also in accordance with LEED as well. Go on. One of the objectives or strategies we are using is a living machine, which we will get further to in the presentation. What I can tell you right now is that we oversized it a little bit, actually. It can handle about 12,500 gallons per day. That is being limited by the equalization tank, as you can see on your screen there, that needs 24-hour turnover. And for example, the usage of just simply the washing machines on all 4 levels at all 4 washing machines can be used at 8 times in one day, would generate around 1,500 gallons, which our living machine would be able to handle. Next slide, please. Now, this is a biologically positive eco-master tool. We walk around the entire Midtown area and counted and picked out the biological diversity of all these sites around Midtown, including the location of our site as a benchmark for the biological diversity around our site. Slide, please. This is another strategy we're using to reduce the amount of material that's taken off site. We're utilizing random walls in the building. We've calculated it to reduce the amount of soil being taken off site at about 30%, or 87,000 cubic feet. And that would be the amount of soil that we're removing from the ground for the excavation. Next slide, please.
We began with the mass analysis, kind of just taking some generic building shapes that we discussed in earlier classes, and that were found to be rather well used by around the city. So U configuration, an H configuration, and an O configuration, which we determined to have a high gross leasable area, but lacked the lead requirements for density. They didn't have minimal cores. They lacked sunlight penetration, and they also lacked open space accessibility. Next slide, please. So we settled on the L-shaped building, meeting all those except for the high gross leasable area. It was not one of our objectives, but we still meet the need for the prompt we were given. Mass analysis for the energy usage. This also further solidifies our choice in the L-shaped building. The other three shapes we checked out on nearly triple for what the annual energy cost per square foot and what would be needed to keep our building as energy efficient as possible, and also detailing the sunlight radiation on the sides of the walls that we decided to put the rammed earth mass walls on to make them as effective as possible. Next slide, please.
So we also put into the program with the book that Dan suggested to create the ideal building, if you were, for that program's recommendations. So we pretty much meet all of them. The only thing I haven't really fully calculated yet is the surface to volume ratio. I just need to do some more iterations on that. And then also we determined the sun angles for each of the beginning of each of the seasons. And we're going to be incorporating these angles into the building as the on the floor plans for the common areas, as you'll see later.
We did a parking plan layout where we included the turning radiuses needed to allow cars to easily navigate through the building. Our original plan, we had to take out quite a few parking spots up top, but we're able to recover those spots through a redistribution of other amenities we had in the space. So down there, you will notice that there is an addition to what we had last time, which is the energy storage recycled batteries. This is to help reduce the high power point, or that high power load on the grid, and potentially make paybacks over time utilizing old recycled batteries, which is a strategy that they're using out in California right now. Down in dark green, we have the first three stages of the living machine cisterns. Those are closed units that need to allow the anaerobic processes to occur, and those are accessible underneath the ramp. We have the generator room with a overhead sliding door to allow accessibility if that ever breaks down and has issues. And we have bicycle storage in the center at about 25 hanging bike spots with the 90 square foot shower to take care of yourself room after you're all sweaty. And we include the lockers in the basement, some of the lockers in the basement as well. On the main level floor plan, we have laid out all the retail space at about a 3,000 square foot maximum. And we've laid out a lobby and reception space to be as inviting as possible and keep in line with some of the sun angles, which we've mentioned earlier. We get into the exercise space and the mail rooms, which we are calling our occupant friendly spaces, along with dog wash room near the elevator lobby, as accessible as possible. And we have the last of our storage and locker space, which are heated and cooled as well, alongside the elevator. And then we have electrical room, mechanical rooms, and building maintenance all lined up. And we have a mechanical shaft on the back side of the elevators to allow for mechanical chases up and down through the building.
Up on the residential, as you can see, the slightly odd angled walls in the common area. That's going to allow for the sun angles for the winter time, where the sun is going to be hitting the building, to allow that to enter the building as far as possible, to create a little bit more of an inviting space for the occupants. You can see where the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom apartments are. So on the first floor, we have 4 2-bedrooms and 9 1-bedrooms. Yeah, I said that right. And you can also see the vertical circulation. A residential 2, you can see that the common area moves up here to allow for the fall sun angles, as well as over here. And on this floor, we have 5 2-bedrooms and 9 1-bedrooms. Yep, I said that right. And then on the floor 3, the common area moves back down here with these angles. This one, we have 6 2-bedrooms and 7 1-bedrooms. On the top floor, we open up this this terrace to step down towards the neighboring house. And then down here, we incorporate those angles for the summer. And then in terms of the typical room layouts, there are some odd ones, but this is kind of the basis for all of the rooms. So here you can see 2 adjacent 1-bedrooms and then another a 2-bedroom over here. We can come back. And then here's another smaller version of the 1-bedrooms that neighbor each other. And then here's a site plan.
Which we get into one of the things we discussed earlier, is a separate guard space that we could position for on the side of the building that would also double as a distribution field for groundwater recharge, and or an open space with garden planters that would be very
Community
friendly, but also there for the seniors that are living there is our commitment to try and make it as baby boomer friendly as possible, to give them outdoor space to kind of work in and spend their time in. We also have a solar array up on the roof potential. We're not sure exactly what the output of that might be yet, or if we will even incorporate it, cost pending. Please go on.
And in terms of sections, it kind of lays out what's where. Up in the top right, you can see a little key plan of where these sections are. So section 1 is right through here, through the northern stair core. Section 2 is through the more southern section or stair core. Section 3 is through the elevator as well as the north stair core. And then here's a couple renderings for your viewing pleasure. A couple more, and then a quick little video to show kind of the overall. Is that lagging? Yeah, it's lagging really bad on you guys. So yeah, questions, comments, concerns? I will try. I'll let you. Here you go. Oh, it switched.
So the public space rooms that are in the field line,
Yes.
are those partitioned or do they blur into the common corner?
So they blur. So they're kind
So
of
graphically you show them as field green, maybe to indicate that is a different from the common corner. The experience of that room, it would melt, right?
right. It would. I just didn't want to like I wanted to show like how the path of egress, if you will, in the center.
Right.
Yeah.
It shows how you reach. Do you have any sense of how efficient or inefficient? These sort of enhance common areas.
So they do kind of.
Muted?
Who's muted?
Are you muted?
Oh no, I'm not muted. Oh man, let me check. Yeah, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you guys missed all of that. Oh no. So yeah, like a couple of the walls, they kind of create interesting design problems, if you will, or concerns. But I tried to make it. I don't know how to say this. I like a design opportunity instead of a problem, if you will. So like here, I gave this unit an angled balcony, so like that sun can still get in there during that season. And then like this guy, I gave him like a extra, like a bonus room or a closet or something off of the bedroom.
Can we go back to the beta?
We've been talking about that. We haven't figured one out yet. We're still trying to do some more research before we pick the proper one.
As well as ecological focus on this.
Mhm.
You might want to look at it. Possibly, which you could then theoretically power with your photovoltaic system. Are you guys familiar with net zero energy buildings or
Yes.
energy buildings challenge?
Yes.
Because with what you're doing here, I keep those kind of things, which is even above the obvious.
We will definitely consider those.
Yeah, can we go back to the plans now so that I can see like a floor plan relative to the rammed earth wall?
Yeah, so the rammed earth runs, you can see it a little bit better here. So the rammed earth, it goes around here. It wraps the stair column, the elevator column, it goes down here and then all the way to the other stair column. Yeah. Which one do you want? I'll go down here.
What's the limitation? How tall can they go?
So there was one that was just completed in Islamabad that's 100 feet tall. Our building is maxing out at 58 feet tall, and that's with concrete stabilization at 5% Portland cement. And we get around 2,900. We would get hopefully around 2,900 psi with that. And the wall thickness is what also contributes to that. These walls will be almost 3 feet thick at the base and slendering, potentially slendering as it goes up.
So actually,
And then can they be larger? Operating, there's 3 functions, bedrooms, which one could that. Then there's also 3 functions at the same time for the living room. And, depending on maybe the view, depending on the quality of the unit, that opening might want to be larger, or they might want to be more of them, so that we get a more unfettered view.
okay.
As you develop further on it, just to take another look at the units themselves. We probably have a space, but I think we should look at the range. Which doesn't pretend there's a corner that you all these spaces and that's unreachable space. And you'll see that the family doesn't go I'm moving one right by the way. You're not, most of your space is actually taken up by walking the circulation. and the kitchen is kind of in the living space. So I think there's just some things that need to rearrange in the back to make it.
What would you do in that? Would you slide the kitchen more against the corner wall?
You could do that. You could make it its own kitchen space that's right up or you could just the idea that it's just this one wall and because you would probably want to flip where the door is and then the door off of the bedroom off the bathroom so that your circulation then can do that.
More efficient.
And then that opens the door to space. As things might think you want an access to your bathroom from the counter space. Right now, you only access to that bathroom if your gas is
Right.
Just take it.
There you go. Is this our microphone? Great. Yeah, your screen's much clearer than ours.
We're looking at the project Jefferson having a bathroom module, kitchen bathroom module. It's basically one wall where you have a kitchen on one side of the wall, all the fixtures on the other side of the wall. That gets repeated throughout the entire project. It's the same for no matter what.
But it stacks, but it could be a wall in a different place within this unit to this unit, right? But it stacks as it goes up. Old Castle is the company that we're looking at. They're out of California, and they do these prefabricated unitized kitchen bathroom units, right? Cells. Right.
All your kitchen stuff on the other side, it can come as a check and then it defines
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you can take it back. We can ask Dan what he wants.
Yeah.
What is this? Is this a gaming computer?
I don't. Looks like one.
Dan, hear me? Dan, do you have any questions?
Not at this.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I didn't have any questions. I think most of the things that we've discussed are similar to the past. So I don't really have any additional questions at this point.
So over there.
Did I miss it? Did you describe your HVAC system?
Yeah, we have selected an HVAC system. What we are going to do is we're meeting with James rather soon to discuss the entire project with her and get her input as well. But we were just suggested a ground source heat pump system or something else. Did you hear what I was saying, Professor? Yeah, we haven't decided exactly what kind of system we are going to use yet throughout the building. We were suggested a ground source heat pump system. We will be meeting with Tennessee to talk further about, with her about what kind of systems we can use with our building that would meet LEED standards and beyond.
Okay. I would think that since the energy conservation levels you're showing in the energy modeling, I would think you won't have any problem meeting LEED energy credits.
Well, to get the percent reduction in the energy and atmosphere category at the max of 60% from the baseline, that still has us rather worried.
What was your value again, like per square foot, or
the max of using the 2030 challenge standards was 0.5 or 57 cents per square foot.
okay? And I mean, just looking at John's project, his was $47. Is that correct?
Mine was.
That was the ASHRAE baseline.
That was kBTU per square foot per year.
So I would think you're.
Sorry, Professor.
You're not going to have any problem.
Okay. Well, his units were different as well. We used foot per square. They used kBTU per year.
Okay, sorry. I would still think you're not going to have any problem with the numbers you're talking about.
Okay.
No other questions.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. They're having student presentations. This computer is not working well.
And I want to encourage you to continue in this fashion. I appreciate the rigor. I appreciate the discipline. I also appreciate the unique sort of role each of you are playing, that both of you are playing in the sort of package that's being prepared. So I want to sort of support that in any way possible. This is going to be a fun, I can tell that this is a fun project for you. So, you know, whatever you're doing to make that fun, continue that.
I would echo that. Good efforts thus far, and I'm glad you're accepting a lot of challenges along the way.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Michael, do you have any closing remarks or thoughts?
No, I appreciate you guys having me in. It's helpful for everyone. And keep up some good work.
Thanks, Michael. Any other general comments from the audience that's here or online?
I have been getting some emails from students about issues, and that's fine. Keep them coming. Remember, March 1st, I believe you have your lab module 2 due. So if you have any questions, now's the time. Asking me right before the deadline is probably not a good time. So please try to stay in front of the situation as much as you can.
I had a question on that real quick.
Go ahead.
There was I think 2 weeks ago, they had asked if this was a group project for module 2 or individual.
I'm going to be honest with you, because I've had a family emergency, I'm behind on getting an answer to that. So you're going to probably need to give me another couple of days.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about it.
So let's make sure that we're all on the same calendar page. The deadline, as I see it, for the lab is actually 1 week from tonight, right? So 1 week from today. So make sure that even though we're sitting here in late February and March seems a long way away, it's actually only a week away. The other things that you need to do in preparation for our next session together, which is on the 27th, is to make sure that you've gone back to review your individual session and taken notes about the things that were suggested and compare them back to the drawings that comprise your package
and you should do that separately and then together with your partner. All right. And then we will have some general remarks on Tuesday about the overall experience from your perspectives and mine in a group and synchronous session. And then I will meet with each of the teams, each of the 7 teams on Tuesday night to go over my impressions of your work relational to where you are and where I believe you need to go. We will also talk about the feedback that I get from Ash and from Michael, and you will have the grade sheets back from me for these 2 sessions of this week in advance of Tuesday's session. So you will have a grade for Benchmark-1 from me before the next class, okay? And that grade will be the grade sheet completed or filled out by me with additional comments that will become the springboard for our group discussions on Tuesday night, okay? Also on Tuesday night, I will release the, bless you, I will release the next sort of assignment statement that will comprise the effort for so-called Benchmark-2. And if you open up your calendar for that, Benchmark-2 is presented on March 20th and March 22nd, which is literally, 1 week from now, but it's next month, or 1 month from now, so it's 4 weeks away, right? So that means that when you fold into this calendar the spring break and you compare that break as time off compared to what you have to do for Benchmark-2, I'm trying to encourage you to be very, very careful about how you exercise your time away from class for the next benchmark. Use the time away from school very, very carefully. Make sure you spend time working on this project while you're away, but also take time to recharge. You have to find a way to do both, all right? There's an awful lot to do with the next benchmark. Benchmark-2, which is in March, has higher stakes than Benchmark-1. And the benchmark at Benchmark-3 has the highest stakes of all right? So as we move deeper into the semester, the stakes get higher, all right? We've just finished the 6th week of maybe 16. So now things get officially really, really fast. This was a great evening. I'm glad Michael could join us. Thank you, Michael. And I'm looking forward to having Michael back in December. And I'm sorry, in April rather. And then we will, I will be available over the weekend if you have any sort of questions or comments about this sort of first benchmark review, okay? Dan, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm fine. I just, for Nathaniel, I do have your presentation and I am looking at it. Expect I'll email you tonight.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Night.